Well, that's
look at that.
Top 5.
Look at that. We're back. Not only, but we're back in a new place, aren't we? Where are we?
We're at my house.
Wow.
This is my house. Welcome. And buenos nachos, everyone. I did.
Buenos nachos.
I'm wearing it, so I had to show it.
There you go.
So, and just in case you don't know what show you're watching, it's very easy.
Fascinating. Tell me, what do we do on Top 5?
Well, we usually, in the past, have gone over our top 5 choices for our personal favorite items, things, ideas, countries, colors, music, you know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We drink a lot of water. We do a little dance and we drink a little water. And that's what we do. We alternate. And so that's the basic concept of it. I think you got it. We should go. Today we're talking about top 5 magazines.
Magazines. Your suggestion. You said this is, and I was excited about it because I kind of feel sad that we're not really in a magazine world anymore.
So I just want to show you just that we've got like a serious following. We even had a comment from Kurt Cobain.
Kurt Cobain himself. Everybody.
Which show is good enough to bring people back from the other side?
I haven't heard from him for a little while. Is he still working, or what's going on?
I think he's on a sitcom, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go with no further ado. Now
get into it. Now, usually we open this with a coin toss, right?
Well, and also we open this with a sponsor.
Oh yes, who's our sponsor this week?
Today's sponsor is Principal Cigars. For when you want to have a cigar in your pen jar for at least 25 years and never smoke it. Principal Cigars.
I have a lot of those. Yeah.
Plastic.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I feel like every wedding, every time I've been a groomsman, I get awarded another cigar that will go stale in my closet. So thank you.
You're a very well groomsman too, might I add. So so this coin toss, I hear that technology might play a part of it. I have the old-fashioned caveman coin.
You have the old-fashioned, and then I have an app that allows you. See, will it even be able to? No, this won't even. Yeah, see, you'll just have to try. Well, it does say heads there on the bottom.
I might have to put my John Henry against your.
I think we're gonna have to go. We're gonna have to do old school. And you know what? For magazines, I think an old school toss makes sense.
If you want to toss it off, you go right ahead and be my guest. Toss away, Gary. Toss away.
I'm gonna toss away.
All right, look, I gotta call it though. I call.
Do you like heads or tails?
I call tails.
You're calling tails. All right. Here we go. It's flipping. Look at that. Can you read tails?
Is it tails?
It says tails.
Let's see what the old. I won't say what it says. So, anyways, It was one of the two. Okay, we're gonna get started.
But you're gonna get us started.
We're gonna start with my top 5 magazines.
Well, I don't know yours at all, so I'm looking forward to this.
Number 5. Look at that. We got numbers this week.
Yeah.
All right. My number 5 magazine. This one was very, very important to me as a teenager. No, it's not Penthouse. Maybe when I was 12, 13, and a certain hobby came into play. This magazine.
Sure, it's not Penthouse.
I wish I could see the slide.
Everything you're saying just sounds more and more.
I hope it's the one I remember. Okay. I wonder if it's not. Well, you know what? Doesn't matter because 5 and 4, same age range.
Okay. All right.
All right. So here we go with my number 5. I think I know what it is. Yes, it is. Okay. The hobby part, skip for number 4, but around age 10 to like 13, this was huge.
I am totally unfamiliar with this. The magazine.
Crazy Magazine. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you a little something about Crazy Magazine.
Okay.
Crazy Magazine as seen here,
Yeah.
is an offshoot. It's not an offshoot. It's a kind of a Mad Magazine clone that was put out by Marvel Comics. Yup. Hence, you can't zoom in on these things, but there's a Spider-Man right here.
I see it. I see the
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Crazy Magazine was my first introduction into John Byrne, Terry Austin's X-Men run, because they did a parody in there. They took the actual art and they replaced some of the, and it looked crazy. Crazy. I have a copy on me.
Wow.
Wow. What if the X-Men's in here? Well, not too far off. Look at, here is a Marvel, and since they were run by Marvel Comics, they had these
They
really
could do that.
incredible,
Yeah, they had a little more leeway.
yeah, they had really incredible artwork.
Yeah.
And here, I'll show you some more.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, look at this. This is, you didn't really find this kind of comic booky art in Mad Magazine.
No.
I mean, this is like really good art. But they had their Nebbish guy. He was like the Alfred E. Newman type.
Okay.
And it was just a bunch of, it wasn't exactly like
Was
Mad
it goofy, like Mad and Cracked and all that, or what was it?
Yeah, and they did Fumetti. They did picture cartoons,
What?
which I'm sure had some of the Marvel staff in them.
Sure.
And they did classics like The Dupes of Haggard.
Whoa.
Of Haggard.
Hard. Now that looks full on like
Who
Mad.
did the art? No, it
Or
was Kent Gamble, not Mort Drucker.
Oh.
Wow. So yeah, there was some serious pilfering going on, but
Yeah, no kidding.
but it was good. It was really good. I mean, I don't know. I as a kid, I had a letters page and everything. As a kid, I mean, it was close enough to Mad, and the writing I didn't really pay much attention to as a kid.
Sure.
But I loved Crazy Magazine. It brought me hours of enjoyment.
Do you know what year Crazy went out of print?
Yeah. Well, I don't know when they stopped making it, but this one is November. Let's see if it says it. 1980.
1980.
Yeah. So I was like 9, 10 years old around then.
There you go. Yeah.
Crazy Magazine.
Very cool. How many issues of Crazy do you still have?
Well, it's funnily enough, right before the show, I went to the garage and I invested some sweat into the show because it was hot in there, and found a few magazines. But I found this old treasure chest of magazines, Crazy, a few other ones. I probably have like 8 or 9 copies of Crazy. Still.
Look at you.
Look at me. Nice. Look at me.
I'm fascinated. I mean, I totally, again, never heard of this.
Go Google it. If you guys can Google Crazy Magazine, I'm telling you, though. And they would cover things that Mad didn't really cover. Like Mad didn't really cover Kiss or things like that. Definitely Mad didn't cover Marvel Comics. Crazy was that was their secret weapon. And the art, I have to say, the artwork. So Mad had my favorite artists by far.
Yeah.
But Crazy had, in my opinion, a more even distribution of great artists, like comic book artists style.
Right.
It was, the art in Crazy was really good, really, really good. So, and the art direction was really good too. But it was it was the magazine that dares to be dumb.
It dares to be dumb.
Crazy Magazine. You got to check it out. So,
and
all right,
we're trying to play the little mascot guy. Overpower the mascot guy with their playing. I'm
video games. These video games. They covered video games.
Hey, look at that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. It was awesome. It was the Pepsi Cola of magazines.
Or the RC Cola, really. Maybe the Tab.
No, it was more. Well, yeah, because Cracked would be the Pepsi.
Cracked would probably be the Pepsi.
But yeah. I'm a big RC Cola fan, so there you have it.
That's not a slam. Not a slam.
We're gonna say our favorite sodas will be another episode. For now.
Yeah.
For now.
Top 5 magazines. I think I have a number 5 spacer if you want to advance one more time.
All right. Gary's number 5.
All right.
You want to say something about it?
Now, I'm going to just say right now, just to give you a little sense of the journey we're going to go on with Gary's magazines. it gets more and more narrow and specific and youthful for me as we go on. It starts a little more broad. Okay, let's move right into it. I want to just show the cover first. I'm not going to do a lot of preamble with this one. This is where Rolling Stone landed, number 5.
Wow.
Okay. I don't know if people much younger than us can appreciate how relevant Rolling Stone was if you listen to music at all. Like it's a weird thing, but I was into it for the interviews. I was into it for Peter Travers' movie reviews in a big way. But some people will think this is a little embarrassing, but I think you'll appreciate it. Rolling Stone was for me, I think, an introduction to serious, albeit shallow, music criticism. Like their reviews of albums framed talking about music in a way that I just hadn't gotten anywhere else when I first started reading Rolling Stone, where you would talk a little bit about what you think the artist is trying to do. You would talk a little bit about comparing and contrasting with other albums in their catalog, and you try to chart out some sort of like where this fits into the whole of their body of work and whether they're accomplishing the goals they're setting out to. Like it was just, even though they were short reviews, like stupidly brief, and there's no way you can do, I think, a very good, honest review in the amount of space they were doing it. I had never seen, that was my first exposure to something resembling serious art criticism about anything. And so like
you had me at fits in the hole.
So anyway, and also I loved the in-depth interviews with artists. It was also the first exposure I had to what it's like on that side of it. I mean, it's very easy when you're a teenager to just buy albums and listen to them and just talk about that side of the experience.
There was a commonality too that was with Rolling Stone. It was everywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think a lot of people, first of all, there's a lot of people who are way more sophisticated about music than me that would be like, ugh, this is like baby music magazine stuff. And it is. It's definitely like music 101, like music journalism 101. But when you find that when you're 16, like that's exactly the level you want, and I wasn't lucky enough to have stumbled on to whatever Cream or I don't know, or Lester Bangs or anything like that. I was, this is what I had. So it was, I have very fond memories.
I like it. That's a great choice. How old were you when you started picking them up for yourself?
It would have been in high school. So I probably would have been, like 16. 16 was as soon as I started developing my own musical tastes. So right when I was probably hearkening back to the top 5 albums, getting into grunge a little bit, getting into more of the rock stuff, like really kind of, and then being curious about, well, if I like, Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots, like where would I go from here? Or if I like Tool, where would I go from here? Or if I like Smashing Pumpkins, like who else should I be listening to? Before the internet, before Spotify, you're at the mercy of the radio or maybe a magazine where you could pick it up and be like, they'll say like, oh, this band is good. It might be a band you like. They'll say this band is good, but you really should be checking out. And then they would name some other band. Now, some people have the benefit of some weird little record store where they could talk music with people, or a lot of friends who had older brothers or something that really were into the scene and like understood all that. Was that you? See, and I was not. I felt like I was at a loss and I was kind of developing tastes and wanted some direction. And Rolling Stone.
One Direction.
What's that? One Direction, basically. Yeah, I was looking for more One Direction.
Yeah. It's a new direction. Shout out to Josh. So this magazine, Rolling Stone, there's a lot I want to say.
Yes.
I will not say it. And there's a reason why. And
I suspect I know the reason why.
Yes.
And then, of course, I picked this cover because Fiona Apple, who I felt bad didn't make my top 5 albums. But so here's my little shout out.
She's really great.
She's really great.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Are we? Should we move to the next?
Move on. Let's get your number 4.
All right. Here come Jim's number 4. Okay, my number 4 is the one where I mentioned a hobby as a 10-year-old, 11, 12, 13, 14. And it was so exciting to pick this up. Oh my God, it was a thrill to pick this magazine up every month. In fact, I believe this was the first magazine that I ever had a subscription to, and that is Electronic Games.
Look at that.
Electronic Game. And when I think of Electronic Games, I think of this cover.
That is a classic cover.
I have this magazine somewhere. I have it. I own it still. I didn't throw any of my Electronic Games that I can remember. Yeah. I probably threw some of them away or gave them away, but I probably have a couple. But I know I have this one somewhere. I just couldn't find it.
Are you able to make out the year on that? I can't see what that is.
Let me see here. Well, I'm afraid to go full screen on my screen.
What a great cover.
Yeah.
What a perfect, I mean, you can guess the year from that cover.
Yeah, well, Flash Gordon probably came out in, well, that was probably 79 or 80. So this is probably 81. I would
probably. Guess. It's early 80s, I would think, for sure, especially like video games, computer games, standalone games is kind of a tell, because I'm assuming standalone games would be like the Pong system you would buy. It didn't have interchangeable cartridges like it had, or there
Pong were actually pretty fun. Actually, that you mentioned that it was Pong was actually a pretty fun game. I thought
Pong was great.
And then they had
there was a very specific era before consoles that was all about interchangeable games. You had that sort of Pong era where you'd buy a system that did one thing.
Yeah.
So, and then arcades, I bet, that's probably like 82, maybe, I would guess, 81, something like that.
Yeah. So, I remember getting this, and also you'd see, for example, Atari's coming out with Pitfall, and they would have stills from it, and it would be so exciting. So this was before the internet, obviously, but this was our internet. This was our oh, look what's coming out, or ColecoVision's coming out, or Intellivision. They're going to have baseball for Intellivision, which is actually a great game. And
rumored specs of being able to do 12 colors on screen at once.
Everything was a first time, and this is where we get to be old timers. But back in the 80s, early 80s, especially, everything was happening for the first time. It was the first time they did a game that could do this. We're kind of going through that now with like virtual reality and stuff, but there was a whole 10 years there where everything was a first and improving every year, improving. So,
and every game was a genre in and of itself. Like now a new game will come out and you'll say like, oh, well, that's sort of like whatever. Like sort of like Call of Duty, sort of like Skyrim, sort of like whatever. At that time, like there was, you'd have this series of years where you had Pac-Man, which was like nothing else. And then you'd have Missile Command, which was like nothing else. And then you'd have Defender, which was like nothing else. Like everything was like the first time there was any game even remotely like that.
Yeah. So Electronic, it was a lot of fun getting this magazine, because you knew that one day maybe you would get a video game that you'd see in here, and it was really exciting. I just remember the excitement of this magazine. So,
just wait. If you're interested in video game magazines, stay tuned out there, people. Stay tuned.
Is that a hint for Gary's number 4, perhaps? Let's see.
Well, not for number 4. No, number 4. So number 4 stands out as the only magazine on my list that I still regularly read to this day. Go ahead, show everybody Jugs. Oh, I mean Milk Street. Christopher Kimball's Milk Street.
What is Milk Street? I've never heard of that.
Okay, so I don't know, people. I don't talk about it a lot on my stream. I love cooking. I'm a huge foodie. I love cooking. I consider myself I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm a high level, but I'm a very competent home cook. Okay. And so I follow a lot of recipe sites, and and for sure, Christopher Kimball's Milk Street is, I think, best all-around cooking magazine that's out there right now. And every recipe I've ever made out of this magazine has killed. Has been a great, like a super hit. And so for people, you know, who are sort of unfamiliar or maybe a little familiar, Christopher Kimball made his name on America's Test Kitchen on PBS, which is something a lot of people are familiar with. America's Test Kitchen would do recipes, and they'd also do like product testing. They would have like all the ketchups, and they would taste all the ketchups. So they would, you know, test all the baked beans, or they would evaluate tools, kitchen tools and things, which is the best one, which is the best kitchen scale or the best box grater or whatever. And they do recipes and stuff. He was there forever. He's kind of a dweeby looking guy with glasses and a bow tie. He was basically like, he was the MC of this show. There was some sort of a contract dispute. It's kind of funny when you think about it with PBS, but it got ugly, and he just decided, he's like, well, I'm just taking my ball and going home. And he left America's Test Kitchen still going, but without him. So he set up this new thing, Milk Street, which is a website, a podcast. I think there is a TV show, maybe.
Wow. Is this a paper magazine?
And a paper magazine you can still get.
And you get the paper magazine?
I do sometimes. I pick them up when it's something I want to save, but I also am a subscriber to the website where I can look up all the recipes and everything. So,
wow. Oh, for one, I didn't know you cooked that much. That's great.
I love it. Hey, when you come and visit,
I love to eat.
I'll make you dinner some night.
All
But
right.
so, and this one actually, I have this exact. This is not my issue, but I have this exact issue. And the so-called best soup of the world, it is phenomenal. It's maybe the best soup I've ever had. I've made it a couple times. I'm looking forward to it cooling off here a little bit.
Is it kind of like pho? That soup?
It's kind of like a Mediterranean pho. It's savory and herby. There's chickpeas in it. There's all sorts of fun veggies, and the broth is really, really flavorful with a lot of spices. But it's like pho in that it's like big varieties of things that you're kind of like spearing some stuff and chewing it up, but then there's also a really good savory broth.
Yeah,
croutons and stuff. It's phenomenal. But picture like a Mediterranean pho, and that's basically what that is.
Well, you'll have to send the recipe.
I can send it over. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great if you're into cooking at all, and also any level. There are once in a while there's a recipe in there that I think is a little challenging, a little technical, a little fussy, but most of it I think is and they road test all the recipes over and over to kind of really dial them in and make it simple for people to understand. I think even a someone who's fairly comfortable in the kitchen, you don't have to be like a great home chef, can pick a recipe out of that and probably have good luck with it.
And I bet you can make.
I bet you could make some really, really buenos nachos.
Yeah. Wow. I learned two things. I learned that you love to cook, and I learned that Milk Street is not a real thing.
It's an actual thing. You can find it at your local newsstand.
All right. All right. We're going to keep things moving here. You mind?
All right. Let's hit
All
me.
right. My favorite number.
Hit me with the number 3.
Favorite number.
Favorite number?
Now I just have to remember what it was. Okay, I got it. My number 3 is what the hell? I don't have to remember it.
Oh, no.
Let's go to your number 3 real quick, and then I'll go back to my number 2.
We're gonna do 2 in a row from me.
No. I'm just gonna. Okay, back.
Oh, I see. You're looking at. I got it. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now.
All right. My number 3. If you would have asked me as a teenager, probably would have been my number 1.
Penthouse. I'm waiting for Penthouse.
Where is Penthouse? As a teenager, I didn't collect comics or anything like that. There were throughout my teen years, so I didn't get. I don't even know if Wizard was out when I was a teenager, but what I did get into a lot was I loved music, and the music I loved because I'm of a certain age was very 80s and the era of MTV and all that. Mm-hmm. And I loved MTV News. That was like my favorite thing. They could make Billy Idol's guitarist Steve Stevens a tour of his home and him talking about the upcoming tour. They could make it sound like it was more interesting than than the moon landing sometimes.
Right.
Not really, but anyway. So my number 3 pick is a very in-depth magazine called Star Hit.
Look at that cover with the late Michael Hutchence.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, where else are you going to find Larry Mullen on the drummer from U2 on the front page of a magazine?
Look at that plus. George Michael,
well
Pet Shop Boys,
Depeche Mode, Belinda Carlisle,
Debbie Gibson, The Cure, U2. This has got to be the ultimate example of star hits.
So to this day, if I want to reminisce on what was going on with Bananarama at this time,
I had actually completely forgotten about Bananarama until just now. Completely wiped it from my memory.
Until you need them. Hey, Jimmy, what are you doing in your room? Nothing, Dad. Just looking at the Pet Shop Boys pinup. The Pet Shop Boys. Actually, really good band. I like the Pet Shop Boys. Or if you want to go in another direction, you want to get really a little alt, you can say, oh, look, it's the Smiths.
Wow.
With lyrics. This is another thing. So one of Star Hits' features was they would print lyrics to songs. And much like, I guess the handoff was from electronic gaming to this for me. Because then I kind of got out of video games a little bit and got a little bit into Tina Turner, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it was the 80s were, if you don't remember the 80s, they were the big 80s. There's a little nasty girl here, Janet Jackson. But I like, as you well know, I was a big Depeche Mode, Duran Duran fan, big new wave fan, love Devo, love all those groups. But, this magazine featured heavily on them. And this was also during the birth era of Madonna.
Look at that.
The bracelets and stuff like that.
Look at that.
And also, people I still to this day don't really know their music, but like Charlie Sexton.
I have no idea who that is.
I don't know, but he looks like one of my drawings. So
yeah.
So.
He looks like he should be in one of your movies.
Yeah. Do you remember the show?
Just that name. It sounds made up. Is it made up? It might be made up.
What was the show on MTV with the 4 roommates? It had this guy on it.
Oh, I don't remember.
His name was Neil. I remember the other ones or the something ones.
I don't remember.
It had a punk rock guy. It had this hippie guy. It was a great show. But anyways, Star Hits, man, Star Hits.
Star Hits. I'm tripping out looking at that. Is that?
You can find all about InXS in this magazine.
It was the
difference between Star Hits. Okay, and it is kind of embarrassing to have Star Hits still, but the difference between Star Hits and like Tiger Beat or look at the B-52s, Tiger Beat and all those magazines, because those were like pin-up magazines. Those were like heartthrob magazines.
Sure.
Whereas this did have pin-ups and stuff like that. About half of this magazine, I'd say, maybe close to half, are like with that Smiths picture, it'll have a song. Like I remember they had Depeche Mode Shake the Disease, and they had the lyrics. And I had never heard the song. So I heard the song months later and was like, oh, it's that song. I remember those words, And it didn't have a photo of the band, but it had the lyrics. And they did that a lot with a lot of songs. And then it had interviews. It was like a more plastic, shiny version of Rolling Stone.
Yeah. Still very entry-level music.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally. But yeah, it was current of the times. It was had artists sharing their favorite music. These are all my age range. Some Cure for you right there. Yeah, so it was very
Carlisle on the cover there.
Yeah. What's that?
Is that Belinda Carlisle on the cover that you have up right there? The one on your slide?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
So, so Star Hits. I don't know if anybody's heard of Star Hits.
No, I had not. It's tripping me out. And In Excess, by the way, the first concert I ever went to.
Really?
Sophomore
It was
year
one
of
of
high
my
school.
brother's favorite concerts he'd ever gone to.
It was a good show. I
Yeah.
remember it being a good show. And I had no frame of reference, granted, but I've been to lots of shows since.
No, I think they were. I never saw
Yeah.
them either, but I think they were a really good live band. That they were
Yeah.
known to be.
Well, he was a good entertainer. Like, he was up there having fun. He was, he dancing around, sitting on the side of the stage. Like, just, it was cool.
Well, I mean, you copied his hairstyle now, so.
I mean, I'm getting there. I got to put a perm in it or something. I've got the vest though. I've got the vest ready. So.
That should be your catchphrase. Put a perm in it.
Put a perm in it.
Put a perm in it. Yeah. But anyway, that's my number 3. So we're gonna check out Mr.
My number 3. Now, this is the disclaimer. I'll let you know when to switch. So first disclaimer is this is the last heady pick on my list. Like, if anyone's thinking like, oh, Gary's just a little pretentious, don't worry. The last 2, we're pulling way away from the sophisticated. But the second thing, so this is the preamble. I was introduced to this magazine from my grandpa on my mom's side. Actually, this very house that I'm living in now was my grandparents' house. And my grandpa Ross, he had a pile of these, a neat stack of these in the corner of this back room back here, where he had a little black and white TV, and he had all his pipe supplies, like all his pipe tobacco and his little picks and, all that kind of stuff. And he had this pile of magazines. So it just smelled like pipe tobacco over there. You could watch the little black and white TV. It was very nostalgic for me. We would come over here, and while the grown-ups, it was a bunch of Irish Scots, they would be up all night drinking and laughing and telling stories. Like, it was just like 2, 3 in the morning. I'd be like 10 years old, 11 years old, and I'd be like just kind of bored, and I would go and browse his magazines and stumbled onto these, and I just thought they were the coolest thing in the world because I was a little bit of a nerdy kid. And go ahead, hit it.
Is it Jugs?
It's not Jugs.
Okay.
Not yet.
I'm gonna guess. I don't know that I can't say the title. I'm gonna guess it has something to do with like adventure, like Rugged Man Adventure or something.
You're not way off, but it's not one of those man magazines. It's not one of those. No, but it's. I think you could argue it's on the very edge of that, maybe.
I'm on the very edge. Let's go.
You live on the edge, man.
Whoa, no.
National Geographic. Okay, there were 2 in particular that I fished out of his pile that blew my mind, and I don't say this lightly. I think sort of changed my life a little bit.
What happened? Yeah, that's a very smart magazine.
Well, one was going through the stuff found in King Tut's tomb. Okay. And it was these like beautiful photographs of the burial mask and all like the little chariots and toys that he was buried with, all this stuff. I found it completely fascinating.
Wow.
I was just totally I just thought this was the coolest thing in the world, that especially that mask. I mean, when you're a little kid, like, that's just the craziest thing maybe you've ever seen. But second, and I think this also really set a course for me, he had one that was talking about the ill-fated Franklin expedition. If people are unfamiliar, I'm a little fascinated with the kind of 19th century polar expeditions where all these people were trying to find like a Northwest Passage, like over the North Pole, a shortcut to the Americas, or they were trying to find their way to the South Pole, stuff like that. And the vast majority of these misadventures ended in people starving to death and dying. Like, it was just disaster after disaster after disaster, but everyone like wanted to be the first one to do it. The Franklin expedition, they were trying to find basically a Northwest Passage, an easy route across basically the North Pole to the Americas. And their ship got stuck in the ice. This was in late 1800s, I believe. The ship got stuck in the ice, and they had to hike out across the ice back to civilization because they were screwed. Like, they had no place to go. And a bunch of them died on the way. Part of the problem was they had a bunch of canned food, but this was like 1800s canned food where it like filled with bacteria, and a bunch of them got botulism. So it was just a nightmare. Anyway, archaeologists had gone up there. They had found some graves where they had buried some of these sailors who had died in this whole catastrophe. Because it never gets above freezing there, their bodies were remarkably well preserved. They dug them up and they look bad, but they're very recognizable as people. And they're like 150 years old, dead in the grave. And in that particular National Geographic had a centerfold. You know, most kids at 11 or 12, they're like finding their dad's Playboys. I'm doing this centerfold National Geographic of this one particular sailor in this open grave with like the cloth tied around his jaw, like Bob Marley and Christmas Carol, and like just this guy in the grave. And it blew my mind. It was the creepiest, most disturbing, also most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And I feel like that definitely is how I ended up studying physical anthropology, studying forensic anthropology, doing the job I do today. Like, I think it was stuff like that. And it wasn't that. If I had found that, who knows what I'd be doing today? But instead, I found my grandpa's National Geographic about a
I had no idea you were going to say National Geographic.
I know. So that's why I have to shout out National Geographic, because hyperbole, I really think.
Was it that you were so bored that you went like a 10-year-old?
Yeah.
So at 4
they were drinking and just talking about grown-up stories about, you know, stories about friends of theirs from 15 years before I was born.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, I would hang out a little bit if they were playing Monopoly or something, but once they got to talking and trading old stories, I just would zone out. And again, like, he had this cool little TV and magazine station, you know, where it was like, what is all this stuff? So.
All right. We don't normally do this, but I'm going to do this because it's special. Yeah. Peter Palmiotti. Just trying.
Oh. Heavy Metal is a great.
Heavy Metal, Rolling Stone, and 3 others.
Heavy Metal didn't make my top 5, but it was in the top 10.
Okay, and sure. I can vouch that one of his 3 is not Barely Legal. So, it is not. I can vouch. But I'd be curious if you can.
I'm relieved, Peter.
Peter, if you can think of the other 3, just let us know. But
shout them out. Shout them out. All right.
All right.
I want to see your number 2.
Don't say it.
I don't know it.
I want to see your number 2. Don't say that. Okay.
I want to see you do a number 2 for me, Jim.
Make a number 2 on camera.
Make a number 2. Come on. Show the internet number 2.
My number 2 is very easy. I know I don't have to guess what it is because I know my 2 and 1 easy. My number 2, I'm not even going to delay it that much because it is
Rolling Stone. There we go.
I
knew this had to be in your list somewhere.
Yes.
So I knew we would duplicate. But.
Yeah, Rolling Stone to me was, and again, around the age I started picking it up. My brother, older brother, I think had a subscription, and he didn't live with us. He was already married, but I would go over his house and see them. And I was probably, I don't know, like 11 when I started like picking them up. I just remember Rolling Stone to me as a kid. I was like, oh, this is like a grown-ups magazine. And I also was confused. I'm like, why did they name it after the band?
Me too. Was every kid confused about that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, I thought, wow, the band was so popular that they named the magazine after them.
Right.
Yeah.
I assume there must have been some relationship.
No, it's because of Gary, I'm embarrassed for you, Gary.
No. You missed it. I said assumed. Past tense. I assumed there had to be some relationship. Yeah.
Okay. No, he didn't. He said he believes it.
I still think. You can't tell me otherwise. They're absolutely related.
The same guy that believes dinosaurs has feathers. So I'm just kidding.
Tell me more about your love for Rolling Stone.
Okay, so I considered it a grown-up magazine because a lot of the things at the time when I picked it up, they were already talking about politics and things like that. But I would recognize some of the artists. You know, I didn't think about this too much till we did the albums thing, but a big part of my musical influence as far as groups I liked, it came from Saturday Night Live. Groups I would see perform on Saturday Night Live as a kid.
Yeah.
It was something really weird about staying up that late, and you're up that late, and then a band would come on. You're like, this is completely grown-up stuff. Rolling Stone.
There's something about being a little tired, especially as a kid, that makes everything a little better, more magical. Like, I remember that.
There's also something about reading Rolling Stone and not understanding everything in it because it's over your head. I'm talking about now. But as a kid, I wouldn't know what they were talking about exactly, but I just knew that it was cool, and I knew that, and I also knew as a kid, for some reason, I knew that this was a common shared experience. I knew that this was like Rolling Stone, and it was like a thing that was everywhere.
Yes.
So if you were in Rolling Stone, you were official. So as a kid, it just was ingrained in my mind that Rolling Stone was legit, and it is, and it's got its pluses and minuses, but with time, it's just become a Hall of Fame magazine, and it's my second favorite magazine.
Very good, very good.
Yes, so
yeah, I knew that. I thought probably the only mag we'd have in common would probably be this one. That was my assumption when I was.
Yeah, because we made the agreement about jugs. So
we both agreed we're not going to talk about jugs.
Can we get more viewers if we say jugs more?
I don't know. It couldn't hurt. All right.
And if we say number 2.
Number 2. Now it's time for me to show the world a number 2. So this one, again, this is probably something I've had to say a few times. I will probably say a couple more times before we're done with this video. Before the internet, you just don't appreciate how important magazines were. It was all about magazines. All the news you'd get was magazines. This magazine, my number 2, I only could find it. I don't know why I wasn't subscribed. I think I just couldn't come up with like the subscription money. But it was only available at one bookstore I knew of in town, which was an hour and a half bus ride. I didn't have a car. I was a kid. I didn't actually have a car till I graduated from college. So like to get there, I had to take the city bus. It was 2 transfers minimum, depending on the route I took. And it was going to take an hour and a half. And I gladly once a month did it. I was so excited to sit here in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, 112, 115 degrees out, sitting on a bus with no air conditioning. You're just leaning near the window, hoping it's okay. For my hour and a half journey to Paradise Valley Mall, to the Barnes and what was it? It was a Walden Books. Walden Books. Yes.
Before you go further, we have a guess. A guess of what it might be.
Yes.
I kind of agree with him.
It is not the Sears catalog, though I'm going to mention the Sears catalog.
I don't know. I'm kind of on Josh's side with this one.
I'm going to mention the Sears catalog with my number 1.
I have
a Sears catalog analogy for number 1. That's not my number 1.
I mean, you basically described the Sears catalog. So.
I just stay with me. I'm also loving Peter's mention of Omni. I forgot about Omni. Omni for sure would be in my top 10.
Life magazine was a great one too, as well.
Life was good too. Yeah.
Okay.
I also loved Interview. Like, do you remember Interview, the oversized one? Anyway,
and
this one though, I can only find in one place. I had to bus an hour and a half to get there, hour and a half to get back. I read it. I devoured this. I loved it so much. Please show the people number 2. Die Hard Game Fan. All right.
Game Fan. I don't think I've ever read this magazine.
No, almost nobody had. But this was one of my favorite video game magazines of all.
It's called Die Hard Game Fan.
Die Hard Game Fan. You can see the Die Hard buried in the G up there.
Oh no! Wow.
Die Hard Game Fan was unlike any other video game magazine I had read. Certainly up to that point, and even really since, because I mean, video game magazines sort of died out. Where it was very much an enthusiast mag, where it had a very clear editorial POV with the editor-in-chief was Dave Halverson. Anyone who's in video game magazines remembers Dave Halverson. He was very opinionated. He had a very strong feeling about what games are worth talking about and not. And the magazine definitely reflected that. Unlike almost every other video game like GamePro or Electronic Gaming Monthly or all these other ones that were out, he would talk a lot about import titles, overseas titles, and he definitely had an attitude that I appreciated, and it was kind of shocking at the time of, you know what, every other magazine in the world is going to talk about the Mortal Kombats of the world. Let's talk about some little video game that you probably haven't heard of that you should be playing. Like, it was very much like, Final Fantasy doesn't need any more oxygen. Let's talk about this game you haven't heard of. Let's talk about this game you should import. Let's talk about, that kind of stuff. And that was very exciting for a video game geek like me, where it was like, that's what I want to know. I want to be a video game hipster like Dave Halverson. I want to say like, that game's okay, but have you played Phantasy Star 3? I wanted, and that's basically what he was doing. I was so excited.
So this is 2000 onward. Actually, it stopped in 2000.
92 to 2000.
The 90s.
Yeah.
It took care of the 90s. Yeah, I was out of video games by then. Although on a later show we'll talk about that. But because we have some plans for that. But
yes, we
wow.
do.
Now what's it like? Okay, game fan.
Yes.
Like when I was talking about electronic gaming, I'd say you said Pac-Man and Defender and all those. Like those would be in game fan. I mean, in electronic gaming or Atari, that's now
sure.
What game diehard.
Well, 92, you would have been talking about the tail. Let's see, you'd be talking about basically the tail end of the 16-bit generation, which would have been the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. And I think there was maybe still a little bit of TurboGrafx or PC Engine stuff, but basically you would have been in like the Super Nintendo and Genesis era, the Neo Geo, which a lot of people are familiar with. That was like, it was also an arcade system where like Samurai Showdown, King of the Fighters, like stuff like that. That was the Neo Geo era.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been fallen into game fan. The rise of the 32-bit systems, which would have been like Sega Saturn, the original Sony PlayStation, the Nintendo 64, stuff like that. So it's that era in there, I think. And then 2000, by then, they hadn't quite gotten to the next gen of like PlayStation 2, Dreamcast, that kind of stuff. I don't think so. So yeah, it's basically the 16 and 32-bit era would be covered in Game Fan.
Okay. Very cool. Well,
and I still have many copies.
And the design is just outstanding.
I just love the color choices. I mean, that's not the greatest.
I like the color choices, but not together. That's
really?
So passive aggressive.
That is passive aggressive. Yeah, that is
very passive aggressive.
Yeah.
So okay, I beg forgiveness. Now let me show you my number one. Okay. All right. Die Hard Game Fan. Got to check that out. I hadn't actually never heard of it. Oh. And it's your number two.
And it seemed hard to find. The distribution was weird. And even here, like, Phoenix is a big city. It's not LA, but it's a big city. I only knew of, like I said, one bookstore where I could.
Well, it's no Star Hits.
It's not Star Hits. It's not, what was the first one? Crazy?
Crazy. It's no
Crazy.
It's no Crazy.
Yeah.
No. Did it have fake ads?
Not everything can be crazy.
Okay.
Nice.
All right, Die Hard Game Fan. All right, let's jump over to Jim's number one.
I'm excited. I have no idea where you're going to go with this.
If you don't know, then you better ask somebody, because if you do know me, and you do know me,
I do know you. This is where Penthouse shows up. I knew it.
This is. Let's be mature adults about this.
Okay.
This is the magazine that forged the man known as Jim Lujan.
Okay.
And it is my favorite magazine of all time. And the first magazine I think that I ever read. Not kidding, because I inherited these from my brother.
TV Guide.
Before I could ever read. It is Mad.
Yeah, of course.
Magazine.
I don't even know what I was thinking. Of course.
Mad Magazine. Look at this. That's right.
Well done.
Look at this.
Well done.
It has public service messages against drugs, although probably most of their readers were on drugs. It had, of course, look at this cover too, by the way.
Yeah.
This is an old issue. This is 1975. That's how old this issue is. But what a great cover. What great artwork.
Look at that.
Look at this. It has.
I'm glad Mad, because Mad is not on my list, but I'm glad it's on someone.
This is so old. This did a Chinatown from the movie Chinatown.
Wow. China Clown.
China
That
Clown.
looks like Jack Nicholson. Look at
Artwork,
that
though.
great art. Look at that great cartooning right there.
It's just insane. Has one of my favorite artists of all time in it, Sergio Aragonés.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Had the fold in from
The fold in, I loved. Yes.
Al Jaffe. Al Jaffe's one of my favorite artists too of all time. He's over 100 years old now, and I mean, and actually Dave Berg, pretty dang cool. He's the weirdest looking people, but Mad Magazine. I mean, I would get really excited every month to get this as a kid, and this had some really great design in it too. But very East Coast sense of humor. I guess that's, as a kid, I didn't know what that was, but yeah, Mad Magazine there was a magic about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peter, look at Peter. Good call, Peter. Yeah. And right here, Peter actually guessed it. He said, "Is it mad?"
Is it mad? Yeah, he knew. He knew.
More Drucker.
Mad Magazine, by the way, was the only magazine that my dad regularly would not just buy if I asked. He seemed to be urging me to get.
Really?
You know, like, because he was such a fan. He loved Mad Magazine so much, and I remember, like, sometimes he would pitch it. We'd be standing at a newsstand, and he'd be like, "What do you think? Do you need a Mad Magazine?" Like that kind of thing. And it's like it hadn't even occurred to me. Like he's like encouraging me to read Mad Magazine. So it was great.
I loved Mad, and I think my dad was actually, he was kind of like, oh, my kid's reading Mad, because remember my dad grew up in the like 40s or 30s or whatever. My dad was already like done with kids, but by the time I was born, so like he was just kind of like, okay, well, just don't get arrested or drop out of school. And then when I just gravitated towards Mad, and I really did, like I remember asking him that, you know, can you buy this? He never said no, but I could just tell he was like, yeah, you sure you don't want Sports Illustrated, son? No, he never
right.
said that, but
yeah.
But then by the time I was, 10 years, 11 years old, he realized, I mean, I used to draw incessantly.
And that changes it, I would think. Yeah.
So
what a great choice.
I love Mad. So
yeah.
All right. So let's go. Speaking of Mad.
Okay.
Let's go to this Mad. I'm mad about your number one. I can't wait to hear it.
Okay. So this is the one I promised a Sears catalog mention.
Sears catalog.
Yeah. So this it's not the Sears catalog, but again, everyone, you got to remember, before the internet, one of the most exciting, fun, it just seemed like there was a world of possibilities being presented to you, experiences when I was a kid, when my brother and I were kids, was around November when your parents would bring a Sears catalog to you and say, go through and circle things for Santa. Circle things that you want Santa to like, and don't go crazy. They would maybe give a number, 6 things that you think Santa should look at for you. And you would go through and you'd see all the world's toys. It was just this exciting. I mean, it was the closest thing to a shopping spree. You'd never get all the things you asked for, but you'd see like, oh, look at Castle Grayskull, and oh, look at all that G.I. Joe stuff. Like all this cool stuff, you get so excited. Obviously, you grow out of that. You don't want toys anymore. But this magazine basically supplanted the Sears catalog for me when I was in junior high. This was the new thing of like, basically, this is just marketing. And even if I was old enough to understand that it's just marketing, I could not have given a shit. I just loved reading it so much. It got me so excited about consuming this stuff. And go ahead, let's show it.
I have no idea what number one is.
Oh my God. Nintendo Power. Nintendo Power, people.
Wow,
yeah.
Really?
It is.
Wow. Now, what is it? What is it? A catalog or what is it?
It is okay. So this was Nintendo's magazine.
Which Gary, this is your number one?
I think they charged hardly anything for a subscription.
Wow.
They never said a bad word about even the worst game in the world in this thing. In fact, it was completely the opposite. Every game was presented as the most exciting, fascinating, cool thing that's going to be coming out. It's going to be the most amazing gameplay experience you've ever had. You've never seen graphics like this. You've never heard music like this. The things you're going to do in this game.
You may ask yourself, this is not my number one.
It was a joy and a pleasure to read. I was so excited. Perfect screenshots that they had retouched. I was too young to recognize this, but they retouched all the screenshots so they were crisp and clean, and every pixel had a razor edge. I was wondering, what kind of TVs are they taking these screenshots of? They weren't taking them off TVs. They were getting them off TVs and then going in with a graphic designer cleaning them up to make them look pristine. Tips, tricks, strategy guides, maps. Now
this is basically like Nintendo porn.
It's Nintendo porn. This one right here, that's not off the internet. It is a scanned version of the issue 1, my copy, which I still have. Yeah, full screen me. Let's full screen this shit. Look at this. Is that even possible? I don't know. In here, maybe you wanted to know about Legend of Zelda's second quest, and you needed a map of the overworld. Oh my God. What's going on?
How do I get you full screen?
Is that even possible?
I don't know.
Like this kind of stuff pouring over all the little tips and hints and the weird little teases of games that were coming out. And I mean, you have to read it yourself, but the way they presented it, and look at these colors, these like candy bright colors. It's How to Beat Mike Tyson and Mike Tyson Punch-Out. No version of any TV in the world, no Nintendo cartridge in the world would make it look this bright and colorful and perfect. But this was the whole magazine. It was all just pure, unadulterated joy, fantasy of what having a Nintendo was.
It is candy.
And I was there for it. I loved it.
Wow. And then you, to make it your number one. Wow.
Number one.
You really got excited when you got this magazine every month.
So excited. I still have the first year. The first year it was every other month. So every 2 months there'd be a new issue. I still have all my first year issues in very good condition.
Did you have a subscription?
I had a subscription, and
let me ask you this: did they put your address like on to stick it on?
No, it came in like a bag. So like a Playboy or something. Like so, yeah. It wasn't.
I don't know, I've never seen one of them.
Yeah. Well.
So
nothing can compare to the just nostalgic joy. I will still flip through these sometime and just remember, I remember some of these screenshots exactly, some of these pages exactly, some of the hype they were doing precisely. Because you would sit and read this and you'd be like, oh my God, I can't wait. I got to have this game when it comes out, which is all this magazine was for.
I get it. I get it. I remember
this is not journalism.
And it was all Nintendo stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
they'll feature other games, but remember, these were licensed games. So even if it's another, like a Capcom game, Capcom's paying them to put out the cartridges on their console. So it's all like they're making money. Even if you buy a bad game, they're making money.
And I remember that feeling when there would be a video game, an arcade game, and then there were rumors of it's going to be coming to a home version. That was huge.
Oh, it was, yeah. I still remember, well, I think this one, gosh, let me see here. I'm pretty sure. Wait. Look at this. This was such a big deal. One of my favorite games in the arcade was Double Dragon. Do you remember Double Dragon? Mm-hmm. And this was, the Nintendo version was coming out. And it was all the details about, like, you can pick up a knife. Look out for this character. He's going to jump out from the bushes. Like, whatever. And it just got you hyped for, like, I gotta start hassling my mom.
Did your parents ever crack open your door and go, Gare, are you crying, son?
No, but it was an unhealthy interest for sure. Like Nintendo changed my life. And I hate to say it, as a comic creator now, and someone who is rediscovering my love for comics and graphic novels and all that stuff. Comics actually got dumped when I got a Nintendo. When I got the original Nintendo Entertainment System, I was like, fuck G.I. Joe, fuck X-Men. I'm over this stuff. I don't care. Like, I am all about now Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Brothers and Contra and Bionic Commando and Castlevania. Like, this is my passion now. And it's only now that I've kind of circled back, now that I'm making comics myself, where it's like, okay, you know what? Actually, I've missed out a lot and I need to get back to it.
Yeah. I almost for a minute also thought it was going to be Wizard Magazine.
You know, it wasn't. And I apologize if Chris Ward is watching, because Chris worked for Wizard Magazine if anyone watched that interview on Artcasters. And I did read Wizard occasionally, and also Toy Fair, which was like their sister publication, but it wasn't a top 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, man. All right. Well, that's mind blowing, but I get it, because if you're into Nintendo, this was pure, uncut.
It was
Nintendo.
It was
value,
pure pharmaceutical grade Nintendo. Like, it was, if you were into it,
was like, weapons grade
Nintendo. It was. And again, I'm not. There's no rose-colored glasses here. Not journalism. This was purely, it was the Sears catalog. It was like, here's all the cool games you're going to want to be playing. And that's all it was every month. And it just made you like hyped, where you're like, yeah. Castlevania 2, I can't wait.
All right. Well,
is this now we're doing honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. So I will go first, because mine are so important that people can't wait to hear them.
Do it.
So, all right, here's my honorable mention. So, of course, there's Sports Illustrated,
Dynamite, good.
And of course, there's Wii.
Look at that Wii. How in the world did you have access to Wii? Is that just a joke, or is that really an honorable mention?
That's a joke. I've never.
All right, I'm just checking. Yeah.
But let me tell you, Sports Illustrated, because had the greatest sports photography I've ever seen. And I was a big Lakers fan. So growing up, when they would win the championships, it was the place to go to look at the, and I was a big NBA fan. They had the greatest NBA and NFL photography. So sports kids. Dynamite magazine. The only reason it's not in my top 5 is because I don't have that many issues of it. I have like 4 issues of it, but I had a subscription, and that was a joy to get. I got it through school, and this cover right here.
Look at it.
Sam.
The Bee Gees. The Bee Gees and the Beatles. There we go.
Yeah. Sam Viviano is the artist that did this, and get this name dropping time. I was going to say close, but not close. But I am actually personal friends with Sam.
Really?
Personal level, yeah. I met him when we were filming Revengeance. We got Bill, again, name dropping. Bill Plimpton and I went to the Mad Magazine. I said, please take me to the Mad Magazine office, because he knew them, and anytime he wanted to go, he could go. So we went. We dropped by, and Sam Viviano greeted us and took us all around, and we kept in touch. We kept in touch after that. He's a super nice guy, super nice guy, and insanely good artist. And I was talking to him about this Dynamite magazine cover, and he had some stories about it. It was really, really great. And of course, Karen Stevenson from Wii Magazine. We dated for a few years.
Sure.
Weird, because this was during the 70s, and I was 9 years old.
Yeah, that's a little inappropriate, but
ladies want what ladies want.
Hey, the heart wants what the heart wants. You can't judge love.
You can't judge love. And the judge can judge love, though, sometimes.
The judge will, yeah.
The judge will judge love, tend to judge love. So these two really are my honorable mentions. Also, I guess you could say Wizard. Wizard was interesting. I was getting into comic book art around the time Wizard came out, but I was not collecting comics or anything like that. Right. I wasn't familiar with comics in that era, but the artwork was kind of intriguing. And again, this is when Wizard came out, it was the Photoshop days.
Yeah.
And it was new. Everything was new. It was like a lens flare. That's new.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But Wizard magazine was pretty cool, I guess you could say. And what else? What would be another honorable mention for me? Cream magazine.
Yeah.
That barely missed. I was gonna put Cream magazine instead of Crazy, but I really thought about it and I dug into Crazy magazine. So Cream magazine was more my brother's era. They were a little bit older, but Cream magazine, I remember when I fell in love with Debbie Harry, that I had a copy of Cream magazine, and no name jokes about Cream magazine.
I'm restraining myself. We're all adults here.
Get your honorable mentions.
Okay, so before we'll look at there. We're all adults here. We can be real. We can be real. No,
by the way, Sherilyn Fenn, Hall of Fame. She's really, really great.
100%. So here's the thing. Like when I'm going through personal favorites, nostalgic magazines, big deal magazines, whatever, I felt like you have to acknowledge the time-honored tradition of identifying where your dad's stash of Playboys is. And when everyone's gone, sneaking in there like a jewel thief, like with the care and caution of a jewel thief, and browsing them and replacing everything so it's exactly as you found it and slinking away, and no one's the wiser. I think that you have to acknowledge that important aspect of that landmark of the pre-adolescent and adolescent boy experience.
Yeah.
You know, my dad had a very tidy, straight stack of Playboys in his closet that I somehow identified once that's where they were. I think I knew they must be somewhere because sometimes I would see them show up in the mail. And so they've got to be in this house somewhere.
I bet you after a few months, those magazines were really straight.
And, you know, I'm a natural. Look.
So
natural. It's a natural interest. You got to browse. You got to look a little bit. Now, when I had my first apartment after graduating, I was I think for a year or two, a subscriber to Playboy. Because it's like, it was one of those things where it's like, I'm a grown up now. I can do grown up things. And I think to me, because I was still basically a kid, grown up thing is like, I can have a subscription to Playboy.
When I was fifth grade, my friend Marcus and I were in his garage, and we found his dad's stash of porno mags.
Yes.
And I cannot look at the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders the same anymore. No.
Right. See, and I feel lucky that my dad had a little bit of taste and restraint where it was just Playboys. Okay. Like I hear about other friends who say like, oh, I found my dad's Hustlers, you know, or something like that, where it's like, that's heavy. That talk about pharmaceutical grade. This was all just like boobs and butts. Like really? It was not.
I found my dad in Hustler. That was the weird.
That's the worst. That's the worst when you find it.
All right, you creep. Let's go to the next.
Well, I'm gonna just one last thought. I'm not gonna try and lie. When I did subscribe when it was in my early 20s, I'm not gonna lie and say it was for the articles. You know, it was for the interviews. It was for the boobs and the butts. But I am gonna say this: the interviews and the articles were very good. Like, I mean, all jokes aside, it was like that stuff was legit. The comics were legit. But it was about the girls.
Yeah, I mean, they put money into it. It wasn't like a throwaway magazine. It was like a legit.
It was a legit mag. Yeah. Other honorable mentions that I didn't screen cap: Mad for sure, and then also Cracked. I actually, and this is a hot take, but it's again just my youth and my personal affection for it. I think I liked Cracked better than Mad. I liked them both. But if I had to choose, like if we were in the bookstore and my dad's like, you can get one, not both. I liked Cracked. I can't explain why. I just did. So,
I'm gonna isolate that quote, by the way.
I like Cracked.
Did you like Scottie Pippen more than Michael Jordan as well?
No.
Okay.
No. Michael
Jordan. Like Robin better than Batman?
Let me tell you something. Michael Jordan is the best, but Will Chamberlain's pretty good too.
I'm actually, you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm actually a Dennis Rodman fan. So.
Dennis Rodman. No, I think also. Well, anyway, we'll do our top 5 basketball players sometime. But...
Well, Josh says crack. I still remember the Jurassic Park issue. You know what?
What cracked?
I sadly was out of cracked by the time Jurassic Park came around. I think I was in it around the like I would get the magazine. I used to buy cracked all the time.
Yeah.
And I used.
I'm going to isolate that one.
You can.
I used to buy crack all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
But I think I stopped getting it around. Oh gosh, it was in the 80s, sometime in the 80s. Whereas I never stopped getting mad, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I think I stuck with Mad longer. I think probably the last time I read Cracked was, I mean, it was definitely still grade school. You know, like I think once I got to high school, I was more interested in Mad, and I stayed with Mad. Like every once in a while, I would check out Mad, like all the way up until it stopped. But there was I don't know why. Again, I have no good reason. There was something about Cracked where I preferred it.
Paul says, "Oh, I went out with a girl in high school when I was in college, and I saw her in Playboy." I went out with a girl in high school when I was in college.
No. There's a period there. There's a very important period there. I went out with a girl in high school.
I don't want to say.
When I was in college, I saw her in Playboy.
I don't believe he's saying.
No, you're
really when I was in college.
Harming Paul's reputation in that line.
I saw her in Playboy. You know what?
I was a girl in high school when I was in college, and I saw her in Playboy. I submitted the pictures.
The police are monitoring
this.
That's
not what he's saying.
The police are watching this stream, Paul, and I'm just saying, pack up your luggage because you're going away. Okay.
No good.
Wow, that's good. So is that your last slide?
That's my last. That's yes. I only picked one honorable mention. So
no. It feels so good to do.
We did it again, Jim.
I'm not gonna lie. I accidentally hit the button.
I find it a little suspicious. You know, I was the one who was bold enough to go ahead and name Playboy as an honorable mention. You left it on the screen far longer than you had to. Wow. I think, you know, who's the perv now?
Some people weren't finished. So anyways,
we did another top 5 in the bank.
Yeah, man, this was fun. It truly is a joy. My top 5 favorite things about doing top 5 are number 1 through 5. It's just fun. It's easy. It's good, easy to get to. Much like the girl Paul Pate went out with when he was in college. That was in high school.
Now you're slandering this girl. Like
okay,
you're coming after Paul and anyone he knows today. I mean, it's just. I said this to you very earnestly the other day, off air, but I meant it. I would be doing this even if we weren't broadcasting.
Well, we do. I do this when we're not broadcasting. I love making this.
And I get excited to hear your picks. Should we tease the one we're planning to do next time?
Wait, Paul just said the name of the girl. He just revealed it.
What?
Her name was Lamau.
Lamau.
I think she was Samoan.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's a weird name.
Yes, we should tease.
So tell me if I'm wrong, but our vision for top 5 is we're probably going to try and go back and forth between more narrow stuff, like maybe like magazines, and more like broad stuff like movies. Like try to mix it up. So
magazines is narrow, but like if we do, like what we'll do is we'll do one that's very broad, like. You know, like magazines, and then we'll do one that's more specific, like favorite TV show detectives or something. You know,
like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So this next one is somewhere in between. We did top 5 albums, This one, this is, I think, a good one for like just that we're dipping our toes into very specific. I'm pitching, and you seemed excited about.
Yes, absolutely.
Top 5 love songs. We're gonna do top 5 love songs.
That'll be next time. Top 5 love songs. Yeah, and by the way, you guys, you can like Peter suggested.
Yes, please suggest.
And I have something.
I would love to do top 5 westerns. By the way,
I have an admission. Yeah, that we'll pencil that one in.
Okay.
I do have an admission. So when we first started this show, I thought, oh, there's no way. I don't want to do like other shows and have people comment and then we show the comments. We're just going to go straight forward and do our thing. And
we're going to pretend like the audience isn't there. Yeah.
You know what? Much like the magazine, it is like crack. Because I showed one comment and then I saw another one. I'm like, oh, I got to do it's interactive.
We had a good chat tonight. We had a good chat with a lot of people throwing out good.
So I'm a believer now. We will show comments. And we started doing that a couple episodes ago, but it was fun.
And another thing we talked about how we probably didn't want to add ever, like we talked about guests, and we talked about how we probably didn't want to add a third person because then it would get really long if 3 people each had a top 5. But there might be future topics where one of us has like for example, this is an easy one. If we want to do top 5 hip hop albums or artists, I know nothing, almost nothing about hip hop. So that might be an opportunity to swap in a guest who knows something about hip hop. And then like you two can, share your top 5 and I can just sit here and
top 5 high schools to cruise.
There you go. Paul might have some suggestions. Top 5 ways to submit your high school girlfriend's photos to Playboy. Without
her parents finding out.
Yeah.
So we're jerks, by the way.
Paul, I'm sorry. I tried to help. I tried to point out there's a period there in what you were saying. And
well, that is the way of our show, and that is the way of
Oh, I do have this is a great question from Paul. I think we need to emphasize that with this last.
Okay, let's see what Paul says. Okay, I do have a question about your top 5 movies. Are they your favorites or the ones that you think are the best?
That's a phenomenal question.
That's a great question, and it actually is an all-encompassing question for the show, for the whole show.
Whole show.
These are always going to be what are our personal favorites.
Yes.
So the top 5s will always be what we personally like. I'm not saying that Star Hits is the best magazine.
Nor am I claiming Nintendo Power is the best.
Although Mad Magazine is the best magazine. But
Mad, you could make a case for it.
Yeah, but no, these will always be our personal favorites, and then we'll try to always show or talk about why they're our personal favorites.
Right.
We know why Gary likes Playboy. But
it's always completely subjective.
Yeah.
There is I will never in any of these slip in a thing. It's like, yeah, but you have to acknowledge this is the best. That has nothing to do with it.
And if you need proof of it, then just look at this one here.
Yeah, exactly. Not the best magazine that exists, folks.
It might be, but that's not.
But it brings me joy to flip through it. It's of all the magazine experiences I've had in my life, that's the one that's made me happiest.
Okay, and I think we have a viewer for life here. Oh no, we don't.
Oh.
Okay, well.
I know how we can win them back.
Saved by the Bell.
Top 5 hottest high school girls. Now we got Paul. We got him roped in.
And that's what you call crossing the line, and that's from somebody who crosses the line daily,
regularly.
So, anyways,
I wanted to add a quick addendum, just as a additional answer to Paul here. I saw a movie for the first time a few days ago, and it immediately would be in my top 5. On one viewing, I was like, "Oh, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen."
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
well, I was most like into and like locked into and affected by.
Okay.
So, and that's also the risk of this. You ask any of these top 5s, any other time, you might get a slightly different list. But I just saw A Ghost Story for the first time with Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara.
Wow. I have no idea what that movie's about besides ghosts, right?
It's yes, but that's best to go in without one.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
It blew my mind, and it absolutely, and not only would it be instantly in the top 5, bump my number 5 out, I'm not even sure it might be high on the list. Like
Wow.
it really,
All right.
really melted my brain.
Where did you watch it, by the way? On what?
I have it on disc.
Okay.
I had it on disc. So, but I think it looks like it's rentable in a lot of streaming places. But.
All right. So,
Yeah.
well, guys, we're going to head out, and we don't know when we'll do this next, but maybe next week, whenever. We'll let you guys.
Next week. We'll figure it out. But top 5 love songs is next. Start thinking about your personal favorite, not the best 5 love songs. Your personal top 5 love songs.
Yeah, even if it's thong.
Yeah,
right.
Funky Cole Medina, whatever.
It's your adventure. That's your story. So, all right, one more time before we go. Thank you to the lovely Neeson for doing that.
Yes.
That theme song that will always be burned in your brains.
Look at Paul just taking the bait down there. See, I told you we'd get him back.
Is he back?
Yeah.
Now I'm taking the bait. Paul says, oh, he knew.
I knew we'd get him. I knew.
Oh, and we found out the girl's last name. Lol. Lamau Lol, if you're out there and you want to
Malaysian
against Paul.
Where's she from?
Lamau Lol, that sounds like it might be Norwegian. Anyway, okay, guys.
All right.
Have a good night. Thank you
for watching, everybody. See you next week, maybe.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you. Great choices, too.
Great choices from you.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you guys later. Bye.